This was a disappearance that shocked the world. Hannah Graham's life was cut tragically short while she was on a night out with her friends. In this video, we'll be diving into the tragic night that changed everything for Hannah and her family. Hannah was born in England to John and Sue Graham. At the age of 5, the family moved to the United States where they made their new home. According to friends, Hannah came from a very lively family and was a happy, bright girl who loved life. She was smart, athletic, and an all-around great person. She would always be surrounded by friends. Those who knew her claimed that she had the potential to take the world by storm. Hannah had an amazing future ahead of her while studying at University of Virginia, if only it hadn't been cut short by the evil that exists around us. On September 12, 2014, at around 9 p.m., Hannah left her residence at the Grand Mark apartment complex to meet up with friends. They decided that they would be heading to a restaurant that was nearby to have a few drinks and burn off some tension. Around 10:40 p.m., the friends decided to leave the restaurant and go attend a party one of their friends had thrown. By this time, Hannah had consumed a bit of alcohol and was stuttering a bit. Once they reached the party, Graham decided that she wasn't feeling too well and was going to leave. One of her friends then offered to walk her back home, but Hannah refused. According to the friend, she explained that her own apartment was close to where they were, so she could easily walk there and get some sleep. But when she left the party around midnight, Hannah went in the opposite direction of her apartment and towards the Tempo restaurant. Later on, she was captured on surveillance videos as she walked past businesses on her way to the downtown. At 12:56 a.m., Hannah sent a text to one of her friends telling her that she was lost and that she didn't feel well. Graham was allegedly too intoxicated at the time she sent the text. Had Hannah turned in the opposite direction because she was confused, or did she fear for her life and was hiding from someone? This is something we can never know for sure. Earlier that day, in another town, 32-year-old Jesse Matthew, who was a part-time taxi driver, was bar hopping through downtown. He was reported as making rude and unwanted advances towards women. Now, after a period of time went by, Matthew and Graham's paths eventually crossed. At first, Jesse let her walk by him without trying to talk to her. Then he just turned around in her direction and started following her from a distance. He was careful in making sure that nobody would notice him behind her. And due to Hannah's heavy intoxication state, even she couldn't notice that he was behind her. She was all alone. When Jesse realized that Hannah wasn't meeting up with anyone, he decided he was going to get more closer. He came up beside her and put his arm around her. They were now walking together toward the Tempo restaurant. Matthew then went inside and bought 2 drinks. Now, nobody knows if Jesse mixed something in the drinks or if Hannah actually drank anything in the bar, but the last text that Hannah sent to a friend stated, "I got stuck down though," which made no sense at all to her friend. It was now 1 a.m. and this would be the last communication to anyone from Hannah. The next day, nobody could get in touch with her. Her friends showed up to her apartment and knocked, but nobody came to the door. Hannah was not the type of person who would go without informing someone, so fearing for the worst, her friends contacted her family, asking if they'd heard from her, but nobody had any answers for them. At this point, alarm bells went off in everyone's mind. Her family quickly contacted the local authorities, and a search was launched. The public was immediately alerted to look for Hannah Graham. All they knew was that they needed to find Hannah soon, but there was no trace of the young girl anywhere. That is, until police started checking surveillance footage and interviewing witnesses. That's when they realized that a strange man had been following Hannah until the moment she disappeared. Authorities quickly turned their attention to Jesse Matthew. Now, Jesse was raised in poverty and bullied at school. Yet as he grew up, he faced every tough turn and earned a full football scholarship to Liberty University. But there was a dark side to Matthew, a side he had always kept hidden. Back in his university life, he was accused of assaulting a girl on campus. After he was suspended from there, he enrolled in another university, of assaulting another student. The victim was not identified. After he left school for good, just bounced around from job to job, one of those being a taxi driver in the Charlottesville area, so he knew the area well and how to get around. He was accused of previous assaults by at least 12 women. On September 19th, detectives obtained a search warrant for Jesse's apartment. Inside the apartment, a cell phone with a missing SIM card was recovered and also men's shorts. The shorts contained both Hannah's and Matthew's DNA. Her DNA was also located on the passenger side door of Jesse's vehicle. A second warrant was issued the next day to search Matthew's apartment again. Once the second search was completed, the investigators left with several evidence bags. With a third search warrant, investigators collected a pair of white shorts, a maroon-colored shirt, and a towel with a reddish-brown stain on it. They also seized his car for a thorough search. Then on September 20th, In a surprising turn of events, Matthew showed up at the Charlottesville PD asking for a lawyer but refused to speak to police. Once he left the station, he got into a car and left at a high rate of speed. Investigators then followed behind him, but he started to run away. This was when a nationwide manhunt was launched. A wanted poster was issued for Matthew, describing him as a black male in his early 30s with dreadlocks and a goatee, just under 6 feet tall and over 260 pounds. For a while, there was no trace of him anywhere. Police searched and searched, but it was like the guy had disappeared into thin air. But then things took an encouraging turn on September 24th. This is when Jesse was spotted on a beach in Texas. He had been using his sister's car and was hiding away on the beach in a tent. He had changed his appearance a lot to make sure that nobody would be able to identify him. But one of the people around the area had spotted him walking around and recognized him from the news. They immediately called 911, and the police were able to detain Jesse at the place. He was transported back to Charlottesville and was officially listed as a suspect in Hannah's disappearance. But Hannah's body was still missing, and without her body, the case could not be closed. The police knew that Jesse would be able to escape justice if the body wasn't found. So they raised the reward for discovery of her body to $10,000. Police didn't even know if Hannah was still alive or not. They questioned Jesse over it too, but he refused to answer. Matthew was then transported to the Charlottesville-Albemarle Regional Jail, where he was held without bond. The investigators only had a few days to pin him down for the murder. The search for the young girl continued. At this point, everyone was losing hope. Her parents were slowly accepting the fact that their daughter may never be found. But then on October 18th, about a month since her disappearance, Hannah's remains were discovered in a wooded area behind a house that was vacant. The police sealed off the area and suspected that this was where Jesse had strangled Hannah to death. In 2016, Matthew pled guilty to the charges and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jesse entered an offered plea, which allowed him to maintain his innocence while admitting that the evidence was likely enough to convict him. His conviction brought some closure to the Graham family, but the loss of their daughter still haunts them to this day. In honor of Hannah, the University of Virginia created programs to improve student safety, including increased surveillance and educational campaigns about assault and violence. That's all from our side today, guys. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like these.